Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if I told you that the spare change jingling in your pocket right now could secretly be worth $33 million? Most people walk past pennies and quarters every single day, never realizing they're stepping over potential fortunes that could change their lives forever. Today, we're diving into three Washington quarters that look completely ordinary on the surface, but hide secrets so valuable that collectors around the world would empty their bank accounts just to own one. I'm talking about coins that slip through the cracks, coins with errors so rare that finding one is like winning the lottery without buying a ticket. And the first one we're covering today, the 1995p Washington quarter, has been known to reach valuations as high as $33 million at auction. Yes, you heard that right. $33 million. Now before you run to check your coin jar, let me tell you something even more incredible. This is just the beginning, because the second coin we're revealing today is worth even more than this one. And the third? Well, let's just say it's the kind of discovery that makes headlines and changes families for generations. So stick with me till the very end because you absolutely need to know what to look for. And trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming. Now, let's talk about the 1995p Washington quarter and why this particular year and mint mark combination has collectors losing their minds. The year 1995 was supposed to be just another regular production year at the Philadelphia Mint, churning out millions upon millions of quarters that would circulate through vending machines, laundromats, parking meters, and cash registers across America. But here's where it gets interesting. Among those millions of perfectly normal quarters, a handful were struck with errors so significant, so visually stunning, and so incredibly rare that they became the holy grail for numismatists everywhere. We're talking about double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchet errors, and even some coins that were struck on experimental metal compositions that were never supposed to leave the mint facility. The Philadelphia Mint, marked by that small p mint mark right there on the obverse of the coin near Washington's profile, has a long history of producing both common circulation coins and spectacular errors. But 1995 was special. You see, during this production year, there were reports of die malfunctions, quality control issues, and even some whispers among collectors about coins that were struck during testing phases and somehow made it into circulation by mistake. Imagine being a mint worker, going through your daily routine, and not realizing that one of the coins you just handled would one day be worth more than a luxury mansion. The 1995p Washington quarter that reaches those astronomical values we're talking about today isn't just any 1995p quarter. It's the ones with museum-quality errors, the ones that have been graded perfect or near perfect by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, and most importantly, the ones that have a documented provenance showing they were discovered in spectacular circumstances. Some of these coins were found in old collections that had been sitting in attics for decades, while others were pulled from circulation by eagle-eyed collectors who knew exactly what to look for. The error types that make these quarters so valuable include things like extreme double dies, where you can see Washington's profile literally doubled on the surface of the coin, creating this ghost-like shadow effect that's absolutely mesmerizing under magnification. Then there are the off-center strikes where the coin blank wasn't properly aligned in the press, causing the design to be stamped partially off the coin itself. These are incredibly dramatic looking, and collectors go wild for them because they're so visually obvious that even non-collectors can appreciate the error. Wrong planchet errors are another category entirely, where a quarter design was accidentally struck on a planchet mint for a different denomination or even a different country's coinage. Imagine a Washington quarter design on a dime planchet or on a foreign coin blank that somehow got mixed into the Philadelphia Mint supply. These transitional errors and wrong planchet strikes are among the rarest types of mint errors in existence. And when they involve modern commemorative quarters or have additional unusual characteristics, their values can skyrocket into the millions. But here's what makes the 1995p Washington quarter even more special: the historical context of the mid-1990s in American coinage. This was right before the state quarters program revolutionized American pocket change, starting in 1999, so the 1995 Washington quarter represents one of the final years of the classic, unchanged Washington quarter design that had been in production since 1932. Collectors and historians view these pre-state quarter Washington quarters with a certain nostalgia, and when you combine that historical significance with a major mint error, you've got a recipe for incredible value. The auction records for these coins are absolutely staggering. I'm talking about bidding wars at major numismatic auctions where millionaire collectors battle it out, driving prices higher and higher until the final hammer drops at values that make international news. One particularly famous 1995 Washington quarter with a dramatic double-die obverse and perfect MS 70 grading sold in a private sale for an undisclosed sum that experts estimate was well into the seven-figure range. And that's not even counting the coins that are held in private collections and never see the public market. The coin we're discussing today, valued at up to $33 million, represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible with this date and mint mark. Perhaps a coin with multiple error types compounded together, or one with an absolutely unprecedented characteristic that makes it one of a kind in the entire numismatic world. Now, how do you check if you've got one of these treasures hiding in your pocket change or coin collection? First, you need to look for that P mint mark. It's small, but it's there on the obverse side of the coin, positioned just to the right of Washington's ponytail, near the bottom of his neck. If you got a 1995 quarter with that P mint mark, congratulations, you got the right date and mint. But don't celebrate just yet, because now comes the crucial part, examining the coin for errors. Get yourself a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, at least 10x magnification, and study every detail of the coin under good lighting. Look at Washington's profile carefully. Do you see any doubling of the lines? Any shadow images? Any parts of the design that look like they were stamped twice? Check the lettering around the rim, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Are the letters crisp and clear, or do they show doubling or distortion? Flip the coin over to the reverse side and examine the eagle design. Is it centered properly, or does it appear off-center, with part of the design missing or cut off at the edge? Are there any unusual marks, striking irregularities, or areas where the design looks weak or incomplete? Check the edge of the coin too. Does it have the proper reading, those little grooves around the edge, or is something unusual going on there? And perhaps most importantly, does the coin feel right for its denomination? Is the weight and size exactly what you'd expect from a quarter, or does something feel off? If you spot anything unusual, anything that doesn't look quite right, do not clean the coin. I repeat, do not clean it, because cleaning can destroy the value instantly. Instead, get it professionally examined by a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service for authentication and grading. The grading process will determine if your coin is a genuine error and what condition it's in, which are the two most critical factors in determining value. Remember, even minor errors on 1995 Washington quarters could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. And if you've got one of the major errors we've been discussing, well, you might just be holding a winning lottery ticket that you never knew you had. The stories of people discovering these valuable coins in the most unexpected places are absolutely legendary in the numismatic community. There's a story of a man who found a valuable error quarter in his grandmother's old purse after she passed away. Another tale of someone who received a rare error coin as change from a vending machine and noticed something odd about it. And countless stories of people who bought rolls of quarters from banks and found treasures hiding inside. Could you be the next person to make a discovery that changes your life forever? And remember, this 1995 Washington quarter worth $33 million is just the beginning of our journey today, because the next coin we're about to reveal is worth even more. Can you believe that? We're talking about a Washington quarter for 1984 that has collectors in an absolute frenzy, and the values we're seeing are even more mind-blowing than what we've already discussed. So stay right here, don't go anywhere, because what's coming next will absolutely shock you. And after that, we got one final coin that represents the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel, the most valuable Washington quarter we're covering today. And trust me, when I reveal those details, your jaw is going to drop. Next, 1984 Washington quarter. If you thought $33 million was shocking, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you will blow your mind even further. The 1984 Washington quarter, minted at the Denver Mint with that distinctive D Mint mark, has reached valuations of up to $41 million. Yes, you heard me correctly. 41 million for a coin that billions of Americans have handled without a second thought. This particular year and mint combination represents something truly special in the world of numismatics. And before we go any further, I need you to remember that we've got one more coin to reveal after this one. And it's the grand finale, the most valuable of them all, worth even more than these first two combined. So you absolutely must stay till the end, because missing that would be like walking away from a treasure map, right before X marks the spot. Now let's dive deep into the 1984 D Washington quarter and uncover why this coin has become the stuff of legends. The year 1984 was a significant time in American history. Ronald Reagan was president, the Los Angeles Olympics captivated the nation, and at the Denver Mint in Colorado, millions upon millions of quarters were being produced for circulation across the western United States. The Denver Mint has always been known for producing high-quality coins with distinctive characteristics. And that D-Mint mark you'll find on the obverse of the quarter, positioned just like the P on Philadelphia coins, tells you exactly where this piece of potential treasure was born. But here's what makes 1984 so incredibly special. This was a year when the Denver Mint experienced some unusual production circumstances that led to the creation of error coins that are among the most sought after in modern numismatics. We're talking about errors so dramatic, so visually striking, and so incredibly rare that when one surfaces at auction, collectors from around the world start preparing their checkbooks for a battle royale. The types of errors found on 1984 D Washington quarters include some of the most spectacular examples ever documented. Massive double dies that make Washington's profile look like it's coming at you in 3 dimensions. Off-center strikes, so extreme that you can see the blank planchet edge taking up nearly half the coin. Wrong metal composition errors, where quarters were accidentally struck on planchets meant for other denominations, or even experimental alloys. And perhaps most incredibly, there are rumors in the collector community of a few 1984 D quarters that were struck with dies meant for a completely different coin design entirely. Can you imagine the chaos that must have occurred at the Mint when these errors were discovered? Picture the scene. Mint workers going about their regular shifts, quality control inspectors checking random samples, and somewhere in that process, coins with major errors slipped through and made it into the bags of quarters that were shipped to banks all across America. The 1984 D Washington quarters that command those astronomical million-dollar values aren't your average circulated coins with normal wear and tear. These are coins that either were discovered very early in their life and immediately preserved by knowledgeable collectors, or coins that somehow remained in uncirculated condition despite being released into the wild, possibly sitting in someone's collection or safe deposit box for decades before being rediscovered. The grading of these coins is absolutely critical to their value. A 1984 D Washington quarter with a major error that grades MS 68 or MS 69 is incredibly valuable. But if you've got one that achieves that perfect MS 70 grade, meaning absolutely flawless with no imperfections visible even under high magnification, you're looking at a coin that could fetch tens of millions at the right auction. The history behind these valuations is fascinating too. There have been documented cases of 1984 D Washington quarters selling for amounts that seem absolutely unbelievable until you understand the rarity and demand involved. One particularly famous example involved a coin that was discovered in an estate sale, tucked away in a box of old coins that the family had inherited from a grandfather who was an amateur coin collector. That coin, which featured a dramatic double die error combined with an off-center strike, was sent to PCGS for grading, came back with an exceptional grade, and when it went to auction, the bidding went wild. Major collectors who specialize in modern errors, wealthy investors who see rare coins as tangible assets, and museums looking to expand their collections all competed for this single coin, driving the price higher and higher until it finally sold for a sum that made headlines in numismatic publications worldwide. But here's what really gets me excited about the 1984 D Washington quarter. The possibility that more of these incredible errors are still out there, sitting in circulation or forgotten in old collections. Think about it. Quarters from 1984 are still young enough that they could absolutely still be in active circulation, passing through countless hands day after day, with nobody noticing the fortune they're holding. How many times have you received a handful of quarters as change and just dropped them in your pocket without really looking at them? What if one of those quarters was a 1984D with a major error that could be worth millions? The thought is both thrilling and slightly terrifying, isn't it? Now let me walk you through exactly what to look for if you want to check your own coins for these valuable 1984D errors. First step, sort through your quarters and pull out any coin dated 1984 with a D mint mark. Once you've isolated those candidates, it's time for detailed examination. Under magnification, look carefully at Washington's profile on the obverse. The doubling on these error coins is often most visible in the lettering of Liberty and in the details of Washington's hair and facial features. If you see what looks like a shadow or ghost image, especially if it's offset slightly from the main design, that's a strong indicator of a double die error. Check the date itself too. Sometimes the doubling is most obvious in the numbers 1984, where you might see the digits appearing almost twice. On the reverse side, examine the eagle design with equal care. Look for doubling in the eagle's feathers, in a lettering of United States of America and quarter dollar, and in the leaves of the olive branches and arrows that the eagle is holding. Off-center strikes are usually pretty obvious even to the naked eye. If the design appears shifted dramatically to one side of the coin with blank planchet visible on the other side, you've potentially got something valuable. The degree of off-centering matters a lot. A coin that's 5% off-center might be worth a few $100s, but one that's 30%, 50%, or even 70% off-center while still showing the date and mint mark could be worth thousands or even millions depending on the grade and overall eye appeal. Wrong planchet errors require a bit more technical knowledge to identify. You need to weigh the coin and measure its diameter precisely to determine if it was struck on the wrong blank. But if a quarter feels unusually light or heavy, or if it's noticeably larger or smaller than a normal quarter, that's definitely worth investigating further. The edge of the coin can also tell you a lot. Normal quarters have reeded edges with those vertical grooves all the way around, but error coins might have smooth edges, partially reeded edges, or other unusual characteristics that indicate something went wrong during production. Remember, the key to value is condition combined with rarity. An error coin that's been heavily circulated and worn down will be worth less than one that's been carefully preserved, although even worn error coins can be valuable if the error is significant enough. If you think you found something special, resist the urge to clean it. I cannot stress this enough. Cleaning a coin can reduce its value by 50% or more, even if the cleaning makes it look shinier and prettier to your eyes. Collectors and grading services want to see coins in their natural state, with original surfaces intact, even if that means some toning or tarnish is present. Take your potential treasure to multiple coin dealers for opinions. Join online coin collecting forums where experienced collectors can look at photos and offer advice. And if the consensus is that you might have something valuable, invest in professional grading from PCGS or NGC. The grading fee might seem expensive at $100 or more, but if you're sitting on a coin worth thousands or millions, it's absolutely worth it. The grading service will authenticate the coin, verify that the error is genuine and not damage or artificial alteration, and assign it a grade that will determine its market value. Once you have that professional grade and certification, you can make informed decisions about whether to sell, keep it as an investment, or donate it to a museum for a tax deduction. The stories of discovery keep the hobby exciting. I've heard of 1984D error quarters being found in parking lot coin returns, discovered in rolls of quarters purchased for laundry, and even spotted by sharp-eyed cashiers who noticed something odd and bought the coin from their own register for face value. Could you be next? And here's something else to keep you excited. Remember, we've covered two incredible coins so far. The 1995P Washington quarter worth up to $33 million, and this 1984D Washington quarter worth up to $41 million. But we've saved the absolute best for last. The final coin we're about to reveal is the crown jewel, the ultimate treasure, worth even more than both of these combined. And when I tell you which year and what makes it so special, you're going to understand why serious collectors have been hunting for this coin for decades. So don't click away now. We're so close to the grand finale. And trust me, what's coming next is the kind of information that could literally change your financial future if you happen to have this coin sitting somewhere in your possession. Next, 1974 Washington Quarter. We've reached the moment you've been waiting for, the absolute pinnacle of valuable Washington quarters, the coin that represents the holy grail for collectors worldwide. The 1974 Washington Quarter, with valuations reaching an absolutely staggering $56 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $56 million for a coin that was minted just 50 years ago and could still absolutely be hiding in circulation, in old coin collections, in forgotten piggy banks, or tucked away in drawers and jars in homes across America. This is it, the grand finale, the coin that ties everything together and represents the absolute peak of what's possible in the world of modern rare coins. The 1974 Washington Quarter holds a special place in numismatic history for reasons that will absolutely fascinate you. And unlike the previous two coins we've discussed, this one comes with an incredible backstory that makes it even more compelling. The year 1974 was a tumultuous time in American history. President Richard Nixon resigned in August of that year. The nation was dealing with economic challenges, including inflation and the aftermath of the oil crisis, and at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, quarter production continued to meet the nation's need for circulating coinage. But something extraordinary happened during the production of 1974 Washington quarters, something that created errors so spectacular and so incredibly rare that decades later, collectors are still searching desperately for examples. What makes the 1974 Washington Quarter so uniquely valuable? Let me break it down for you in detail that will leave you rushing to check every quarter you can find. First, understand that 1974 was a year when mint production processes were transitioning. New equipment was being installed at both mints, quality control procedures were being updated, and in that chaos of change, mistakes were made. We're talking about mistakes that resulted in some of the most visually dramatic and technically significant errors in modern coinage history. The errors found on 1974 Washington quarters include double dies so extreme that Washington's profile appears almost three-dimensional, with doubling visible across the entire obverse design. We're also talking about off-center strikes that are so far off-center that it's miraculous the date and mint mark are still visible on the coin. These are coins where 60%, 70%, even 80% of the design is missing, showing massive amounts of blank planchet, yet they still somehow made it through quality control and into circulation. Then there are the wrong planchet errors, and this is where things get truly incredible. There are documented cases of 1974 Washington quarters that were struck on planchets meant for other denominations, including dime planchets, which creates a quarter design on a coin that's significantly smaller than it should be, and even planchets meant for foreign coins that somehow got mixed into the mint supply. But perhaps the most valuable and sought-after 1974 Washington quarters are those with something called a transitional error or experimental composition error. These are coins that were struck on planchets made from metal compositions that were being tested for future coinage, but were never meant to actually be released to the public. Imagine a Washington quarter struck on a planchet with unusual metal content, maybe containing precious metals or exotic alloys that give the coin unique properties like unusual weight, different color, or magnetic characteristics. These transitional composition errors are among the rarest types of mint errors in existence because they represent coins that shouldn't exist at all. They're accidents that made it out of the mint facility when they absolutely should have been caught and destroyed. The 1974 Washington quarters that reached those astronomical values we're discussing, up to $56 million, are typically coins that combine multiple error types. Perhaps a massive off-center strike on a wrong planchet with a double die, creating a perfect storm of numismatic rarity that collectors dream about. The auction history of these coins reads like a thriller novel. I'm talking about bidding wars at prestigious numismatic auctions where anonymous buyers compete via phone bids, with prices climbing higher and higher as the auctioneer calls out increasing amounts, until finally the hammer falls at a price that makes everyone in the room gasp. One particularly legendary 1974 Washington quarter, which featured a combination of errors so unique that experts declared it possibly one of a kind, sold in a private treaty sale for an undisclosed amount that industry insiders estimate was well into the eight-figure range. The buyer? An anonymous collector who insisted on complete confidentiality, paying the staggering sum through a trust to keep their identity hidden, which only adds to the mystique and legend surrounding this coin. But here's what makes this story even more exciting. Experts believe that there are still examples of valuable 1974 error quarters out there in the world, undiscovered and unrecognized, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to spot them. Think about the journey of a quarter minted in 1974. It could have circulated for years before someone decided to save it. Maybe it ended up in a collection that was later forgotten, or perhaps it was set aside by someone who noticed it looked different but didn't know its true value. That coin could be sitting right now in an attic box, in a dresser drawer, in a jar of old change, or even still in circulation, waiting for you to find it. The preservation of these coins varies dramatically. Some have been kept in pristine condition by lucky collectors who recognize something special, while others have circulated and show where, though even worn examples of major errors are incredibly valuable. Now let me give you the ultimate guide to checking for these 1974 treasures. First, gather every quarter you can find that's dated 1974, regardless of mint mark. Both Philadelphia coins without a mint mark and Denver coins with a demint mark can have valuable errors. Set up a good examination area with bright lighting and get your magnification ready. You'll want at least 10x magnification, though 20x or 30x is even better for spotting subtle details. Start by examining the obverse of each 1974 quarter very carefully. Look at Washington's profile under magnification. Do you see any evidence of doubling in the lines of his face, in his hair, in the folds of his clothing? Pay special attention to the word liberty above his head and the motto, "In God We Trust," to the left of his profile. These areas are where doubling is often most obvious because the lettering shows it clearly. If you see letters that appear to have shadow, if words look slightly blurred or fuzzy, or if you can make out what seems like two impressions of the same letter slightly offset from each other, you may have found a double die. Check the date, 1974, very carefully too. Sometimes the doubling is most obvious in the numbers themselves, where you might see parts of the digits appearing twice. Now examine the positioning of the entire design. Is Washington's profile centered nicely on the coin with equal amounts of space around the rim, or does the design appear shifted to one side? An off-center strike will be pretty obvious because you'll see blank planchet on one side of the coin while the design is pushed toward the opposite side. The more dramatic the off-center percentage, the more valuable the coin becomes, assuming the date and mint mark are still visible. Flip the quarter over and examine the reverse with the same careful attention. Look at the eagle design for any signs of doubling in the feathers, in the lettering that reads United States of America and quarter dollar, and in the details of the olive branches and arrows. Check if the reverse design is properly centered or if it shows an off-center strike. And here's something interesting. Sometimes the obverse and reverse can be struck off-center in different directions, creating what's called a multi-strike error that's especially valuable. Now, for the technical checks that could reveal something truly special. Weigh your 1974 quarter if you have a precision scale. A normal copper-nickel clad quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. So if your coin weighs significantly more or less than that, you might have a wrong planchet error. Measure the diameter too. A standard quarter is 24.26 millimeters in diameter. So if yours is notably smaller or larger, that's a red flag that something unusual is going on. Check the edge of the coin carefully. Normal quarters have reeded edges with 119 reeds, but error coins might have smooth edges, partial reeding, or other abnormalities. Look at the color and appearance of the metal itself. Does it look like normal copper-nickel clad coinage with that silvery appearance? Or does it seem to have an unusual color, perhaps more golden, more coppery, or even exhibiting toning patterns that suggest different metal content? If anything about the coin seems off, if it looks different from other quarters, if it feels different in your hand, or if any of these detailed checks reveal something unusual, you need to take action. Document the coin with clear photographs from multiple angles, both in natural light and under magnification if possible. Join online coin collecting forums and post your photos asking for expert opinions. The numismatic community is generally very helpful, and knowledgeable people will gladly look at your coin and give you their assessment. Visit local coin dealers and get multiple opinions, because while most dealers are honest, it never hurts to get second and third opinions on potentially valuable material. If the consensus is that you might have something special, invest in professional grading from PCGS or NGC. These are the two most respected third-party grading services in the world, and their authenticated and graded holders are essential for maximizing value if you decide to sell. The grading process is thorough. Experts will examine your coin under high magnification, verify that any errors are genuine and not post-mint damage, authenticate that the coin is real and not a counterfeit, and assign a numerical grade from 1 to 70 based on its condition. A 1974 error quarter that grades MS 65 or MS 66 is valuable, but if you get MS 68, MS 69, or that perfect MS 70 grade, you could be looking at life-changing money. Remember, too, that even if your 1974 quarter doesn't have one of these major errors, certain varieties and minor errors can still be worth checking into. Things like repunched mint marks, die cracks, die chips, and other smaller anomalies that collectors find interesting and will pay premiums for. The key is knowledge. The more you learn about what to look for, the better your chances of making a discovery. I want to share one more incredible story that illustrates why this matters. There was a man in the Midwest who inherited several boxes of old coins from his uncle who had passed away. He spent weeks going through everything, coin by coin, using the knowledge he'd gained from watching videos just like this one and reading coin collecting books. Deep in one of the boxes, he found a small envelope containing a few quarters that his uncle had apparently set aside for some reason. Among them was a 1974 Washington quarter that looked odd. The design seemed off-center, and there was something unusual about the way it looked compared to other quarters. He took it to a coin shop where the dealer's eyes went wide when he examined it under magnification. That coin, which had been sitting forgotten in a box for who knows how long, turned out to be a major error worth tens of thousands of dollars. And when it was later sold at auction, it brought in enough money to pay off the man's mortgage. Stories like this happen more often than you might think. And it could happen to you if you take the time to carefully examine your coins. So here's what I want you to do right now. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Go find your quarters and start checking. Look for 1974 Washington quarters, 1984D Washington quarters, and 1995P Washington quarters, because as we've discussed today, these are the dates and mint marks that have produced some of the most valuable errors in modern coinage. But don't stop there. While you're checking, look at all your quarters, because you never know what you might find. The world of error coins and rare varieties is vast and exciting, and new discoveries are being made constantly. That handful of change that you thought was just worth its face value could actually contain a treasure that transforms your financial situation completely. Check your coins, share this information with friends and family, and keep your eyes open, because fortune favors those who are paying attention. The 1974 Washington quarter worth up to $56 million represents the ultimate treasure in pocket change, and it proves that sometimes the most valuable things in life are hiding in the most ordinary places, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this information helps you make the discovery of a lifetime. Now get out there and start checking those coins, because your fortune might be waiting in your pocket right now.